All right, good afternoon. Again, my name is David Crow from San Antonio, Texas, and we are in the last installment of Meet Me in Mark. We're going to finish up this gospel looking at chapters 14 through 16 today. We've got 6 questions, as we always do, from the Bible study, and some other information that I'd like to share with you from this text. So, with no further ado, let's just jump right into it. As we start in chapter 14, again, you're going to see chief priests and teachers of law looking for some way to have Jesus arrested and or killed. And so while he's in Bethany, a woman came to him with a alabaster jar of very expensive perfume, and she poured some of that perfume on his head. And there were people that were very upset with what he did. But if you go to verse 6, I love what Jesus says here. It says, "Leave her alone. Why are you bothering her? She has done a beautiful thing to me. The poor you will always have with you, and you can help them anytime you want, but you will not always have me. She did what she could. She poured perfume on my body beforehand to prepare for my burial. I'll tell you the truth, wherever the gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her." And so that's just a really nice tribute to what this woman did for him, but it's also foreshadowing as to what's to come as we know what's going to build during this time. Then we get to the Lord's Supper. And Jesus tells his disciples, sends 2 of them off, and says, "Go into the city, and a man carrying a jar of water will meet you. Follow him, and then say to the owner of the house he enters, 'The teacher asks, where is my guest room, where I may eat the Passover with my disciples?' He will show you a large upper room furnished and ready. Make preparations for us there." So again, here you see Jesus telling his disciples what to do, and this is going to happen. So the disciples left. We're looking at Mark 14, verse 16. The disciples left, went into the city, and found things just as Jesus had told them. And so they prepared the Passover. So again, as we've seen before, when Jesus tells you to do something or tells his disciples to go do something, it's already there, it's already set up, it's ready to go. And then we get into the story about the betrayal. And he talks about how one of you who is eating with me is going to betray me. And they were all sad. The 12 disciples very sad, and surely it's not me. Like they're all searching for that answer. But he does tell them that it is one of the 12, and one who dips bread into the bowl with me. And the Son of Man will go just as it is written about him. But woe to that man who betrays the Son of Man. It would be better for him if he had not been born. And then we go through the rest of that where they, eat the bread and take his body, drink the cup as his blood. And we all honor this when we take communion now at our churches. And so that leads us into Peter's denial. And so, I can identify with Peter. We talked about this in our men's group. There's several of us that can identify with Peter. Peter talks a lot. His heart is just so ambitious and wanting to be so loyal and so faithful. But time after time after time, you'll see that Peter's mouth kind of gets him in trouble because here we go again. Peter declares in verse 29 here that even if all fall away, I will not. And then Jesus tells him, "Today, yes, tonight, before the rooster crows twice, you yourself will disown me 3 times." But Peter insisted emphatically, "Even if I have to die with you, I will never disown you." And all the others said the same. Well, again, when Jesus speaks, you know something's going to happen. I mean, he's telling you what's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's been shown time after time after time after time here in Mark. And so that leads us into Gethsemane. And so the question here was about what does Jesus' prayer in Gethsemane teach us about surrender? And so one of the things that kind of came out to me in this part is even Jesus is praying for this not to happen to him, knowing that he could stop this, but he is being obedient to his Father. But he says here, if you look at verse 35, it says, going a little further, he fell to the ground and prayed, if possible, the hour might pass from him. "Abba, Father," he said, "everything is possible for you. Take this cup from me. Yet not what I will, but what you will. And then he returns to find his disciples sleeping, which I can only imagine how disappointed he was in them. But again, he knows that that's going to happen. I mean, he's the Son of Man. So it's not a surprise to him. But it also tells, the third time he comes back and finds them sleeping in this passage, he says, the hour has come. Look, the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer. But again, back to the question of what does this prayer teach us about surrender? Even Jesus surrendered to the will of his Father, complete surrender. And I think that's often the prayer that has to be said is, Lord, not my will, but your will be done. I will be obedient to what you have called me to do. That is complete surrender, even on the part of Jesus. Even though Jesus knows what's coming, he still follows the will of God. So as we move forward into verse 45, Judas appears. So we now know who the betrayer is going to be. And he tells them that the one that I kiss is the man. Arrest him and lead him away under guard. And so going at once to Jesus, Jesus said, Rabbi, and kissed him. And the men seized Jesus and arrested him. And then one of those standing near drew his sword and struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his ear. So we were kind of joking about this in the men's group because even though Mark doesn't identify who it is, it's identified in another gospel that it's Peter. So again, here comes zealous Peter, and that's just what Peter does, and he winds up cutting off this man's ear. But then that man is healed. So as we go forward, we get into Peter's denial. And so if we get to verse 66, it starts to talk about Peter disowning Jesus. And so, again, Jesus has already predicted that this was going to happen. And it said, immediately the rooster crowed a second time. And then Peter remembered the word Jesus had spoken to him. Before the rooster crows twice, you will disown me 3 times. And he broke down and wept. And so our question here was, how does Peter's denial challenge us to examine our own faithfulness? Well, again, you got to remember, Peter is what I call part of the big 3. Like here in San Antonio, we always talk about the big 3, which was Tim, Tony, and Manu. But the big 3 with the disciples were Peter, James, and John. And you see that over and over and over in the Gospels. But again, Peter always talks really big. And like I said, I can relate to that. I like to, talk and affirm things and be confident, but boy, do I fall short a lot of times, especially if it's not in the will of my Father. And so it's just one of those things that you have to continually surrender to Jesus, and you have to let him lead your way. And that's really what being faithful is all about, is obeying what you're led to do from Jesus. So moving forward, we get into chapter 15. In chapter 15, the question here was, why is Jesus' trial and crucifixion so unjust, and what does this teach us about suffering? And if you read verses 1 through 20, and I'm not going to read this to you, but you'll find this is just a whole sham. There's no evidence at all against Jesus. Obviously, there's not. It's all a complete setup. Pilate gets suckered into this thing. And sometimes I feel for Pilate because he finds himself in a very precarious position as a leader where he kind of has no out, even though he does. I mean, he could have stopped this thing, but he chose not to. And so, again, this is the will of the Father, and so of course this is going to happen. But again, there's part of me, having been in a leadership role myself, if you really wanted to exert leadership and you wanted to make this stop, you absolutely 100% could have done that. But Pilate doesn't do that here. But even the people rejected Jesus. I mean, just a week before, they're all praising him and singing Hosanna in the highest, and now they're wanting him killed. The hatred, the mockery, it's just so different a week later. It's unbelievable to see that these are the same people. And just the way they treated him, it was just horrible if you read through that. And so Jesus suffered at great lengths. And if you're following God, you're going to have some suffering in your life. It's going to happen. I mean, it's part of the trials, it's part of the refining process. And again, even Jesus, the Son of Man, goes through a great deal of suffering on our behalf. So we're moving now. We get into the crucifixion and the death of Jesus. And our next question comes from verse 38. And it says, what is the significance of the temple curtain tearing at Jesus' death? And so I want to back up just a little bit here to verse 33 about the death of Jesus, because I do think it's important to read this part. It says, at the sixth hour, darkness came over the whole land until the ninth hour. And at the ninth hour, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, my God, why have you forsaken me? When some of those standing near heard this, they said, listen, he's calling Elijah. One man ran with a sponge, filled a sponge with wine vinegar, put it on a stick, and offered it to Jesus to drink. Now leave him alone. We'll see if Elijah comes to take him down. And with a loud cry, Jesus breathed his last. The curtain from the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. And when the centurion who stood there in front of Jesus heard his cry and saw how he died, he said, surely this man was the Son of God. But the significance of the temple curtain tearing is that there was no longer any separation. When Jesus died, that ended the need for the Holy of Holies. That ended the need for an intercessory. We have direct access to God through Jesus. And so with him dying for our sins, in that moment, everything changed. The way that we're able to ask for forgiveness, the way that we're able to experience grace, all of those things changed once Jesus died. And that's the significance of the temple curtain tearing, is it marked the start of a new chapter of being a Christian. So then we move into chapter 16, and we get into the best part of the story, right? This is the climax of Mark, is the resurrection. And so the question here is, how does the resurrection change everything? Well, it changes everything because, one, it's a fulfillment of prophecy. Two, Jesus overcame death and made himself known, and he is completely victorious over death. And it's well documented that he came back from the dead 3 days later. Um, that changed history forever. It's the most recorded incident ever. He's the only person written about in any kind of religious text who's ever come back from the dead as he said he would. Jesus is the only way. And if it's just so historically documented, it changed everything. And this is the gospel. This is good news. And so we get to the last part of Mark, verses 15 and 16 in Mark 16. And it says, what does the Great Commission mean for us today? And so I'm just going to read this. Jesus is speaking to the people before him. And it says, go into all the world and preach the good news to all creation. Whoever believes and is baptized will be saved, but whoever does not believe will be condemned. And these signs will accompany those who believe. And in my name they will drive out demons. They will speak in new tongues. They will pick up snakes with their hands. And when they drink deadly poison, it will not hurt them at all. They will place their hands on sick people, and they will get well. And after the Lord Jesus had spoken to them, he was taken up into heaven, and he sat at the right hand of God. And then the disciples went out and preached everywhere. And the Lord worked with them and confirmed his word by the signs that accompanied it. And so again, when we look at those two verses, specifically 15 and 16, the Great Commission is to go into all the world and preach the good news to all creation. And whoever believes and is baptized will be saved, but whoever does not believe will be condemned. And so the Great Commission for us today is to share this good news, to share our faith in Jesus Christ and what he's done for us, and share that with other people. But as we've seen, our job is to scatter the seed. God is the one that will let that seed grow if the soil is receptive to receive it. We saw that back in the parable of the sower in an early chapter in Mark. So again, the Great Commission to us is to share the good news of Jesus. And for my part, I'm just trying to be obedient to how he leads me. I'm using this platform to share what I'm learning. I hope that you find it a blessing, because I will continue to do this as I move forward in my Bible studies. But the application challenge for this last lesson in Mark was to reflect on the sacrifice of Jesus and what it means for you personally. And for me, I'm just so grateful that he died for me. The fact that he loved me this much, that he would take on all of the punishment, all of the mockery, all of the pain and suffering, so that I would not have to go to hell, so that I can go to heaven because I believe in him, is just an unbelievable gift. And I am so very grateful and thankful to him for that gift. And I'm also very thankful and grateful for the platforms that I have at this point, being able to lead a small group of men in a men's group, being able to share on this platform what I'm learning. I'm just open to what God leads me to do, and I continually pray for him to lead my way and guide my path, and he is definitely doing that. And so that brings us to the end of Mark. We are done with this series. Put my Bible over here to the side. So I'm not sure where we're going next. The men's group is going to take a little bit of a break as we approach summer and our schedules get a little busier. We're going to pick back up in the fall, and so I'll be happy to share more things with you at that point. But I expect that I'll probably have some more testimony videos coming this summer. I expect some great things to be happening. We're approaching that graduation season. My son graduates 2 weeks from tomorrow. And so we are super, super excited about that and his future. Excited that he's staying here in San Antonio to play baseball at a new program that's starting in Palo Alto College. My youngest will be a junior next year. We got a lot of summer baseball coming up as he's playing with Marucci Elite again. And we're doing some travel here in Texas and into Louisiana. And I just hope and pray that he has a great season. But to all you graduates or parents of graduates, just enjoy this time. There is nothing, and I mean nothing, that parallels a high school graduation for a kid. College graduations are great, they're huge achievements, but there's just something about the high school graduation experience. So if you are honoring a graduate, please make sure that their graduation time is special. It only happens once. And again, and it's the first big one that they're going to have, especially, if they're going to go on to college, they'll have more graduation experiences. But again, like I said, it's just nothing quite like the high school experience. And so with that said, I always spotlight music. Through Mark, I've been spotlighting Ann Wilson. I'm going to continue to do that. I'm not going to read you any lyrics today, but Sunday Sermons. Sunday Sermons by Ann Wilson is another great song that she's got out. And really, as we're going through the gospel and you see all of the red letters, those are the statements directly from Jesus Christ, and there's power in those letters. And that's part of what she talks about in that song, Sunday Sermons. And so this is also Mother's Day weekend. I want to give a big shout out to my mom in case she watches this. Mom, I love you. I hope that you're doing well this weekend up there in Oklahoma. To all the mothers out there, I pray that you have the greatest day and that your children respect you the way it is in the commandments. And I always joke about that with my kids because, mother comes first even in the Bible. And so we are to respect our mother and our father, and mother comes first. So with that said, have a great weekend. Thank you for tuning in if you did. I hope that this has blessed you in some way. And until we record again, may the Lord bless and keep you.